you're breaking their heart, okay? You are breaking their heart. All they want to do is please you. They're like dying to please you and dying to be close to you and dying to meet your needs. They literally want to meet your needs so bad. Like, do you get that? They want to meet them. And then you're just over here just like creating complete trauma for them because you're just like...
More person who couldn't meet my needs, like nobody ever can. I thought I gave enough. I thought I would be reciprocated, but I guess I wanted a partner.
Honey, because they really wanted to meet your needs, but your needs aren't real. They don't make sense. I'm confused. That makes no sense. That makes no sense, guys. That makes no sense, avoidance.
Hey, listen!
Welcome to Listen Alyssa. I'm your host, Alyssa. Thanks for coming back to my channel. This episode, I'm going to talk about the fearful avoidant attachment style. Let's get into it. A couple of just random things about the fearful avoidant is that they are very present individuals. They will feel like they have such a commanding presence. They'll be very charismatic. They will be like somebody that you feel like you've never met someone so just easy to get along with. Like you've known them for forever, for years. You feel like you instantly click with them. You feel like they're so easy to talk to. They see you, they hear you, feel very listened to. You feel like there's a real connection there. So we're gonna go over the key indicators that someone is possibly a fearful avoidant attachment style, and you may be one, or you may know one. And this can help you to learn how to navigate better with the different parts of interacting with that person. All right, so let's get into it. Fearful avoidance. Number one, we're gonna talk about how they're very present, as I said. They can be very present. They can make you feel very seen, very listened to, they're very in the moment when they're there with you. They want to go deep about things. They don't like surface level interactions. So it can make you feel like they're very vulnerable, authentic, open book. Like, wow, this is an amazing person. I don't think I've ever encountered anyone like this in years, in a long time, or rarely ever. They also have this ability to read people. They're always reading between the lines, picking up on every little thing that they could be perceptive about. Constantly watching people and their environment and like taking in information and processing it. That sounds like all great and dandy qualities, right? But why are they doing these things? Well, let's investigate why they're doing these things. The reason that they have learned to be hypervigilant and the reason they need to read between the lines is because they came from a childhood, typically, that was full of turmoil. It was full of trauma. It was full of tumultuous times. It was chaotic. They typically suffered a significant amount of trauma. That is what is pretty common amongst fearful avoidance. Now, this trauma would be something very impactful, very lasting on the spirit, and likely something that stretched over a good portion of their childhood. So it would be an impactful event that wasn't just maybe a one-time thing unless it was extremely impactful, and I'll kind of touch on those. So here are some examples of some things that could qualify as this type of a trauma. They could have been abused in some way. So this could be any type of abuse, okay? You know the different types. They may have had a caregiver that suffered from substance abuse, alcoholic, somebody who was very flippant in that manner, because when someone's on drugs or alcohol, you kind of never know what you're going to get. Are you getting the addict that is hungover? Are you getting the addict that is on the pills, that's the manic at the moment? Or are you getting the anger that comes when the alcoholic has the alcohol? So it could be a range of things. So you never know. So you have to kind of read between the lines to stay safe from day to day. You don't know how to attach to this person because they're so unpredictable. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. It could be that they had an adult or in the home or a caregiver that had a mental illness or a mental disorder or a personality disorder. So I will be honest and say I still get a little bit confused about what's the disorder, what's the illness, and I just know some of the things that could fit into this category I believe are personality disorders, which would be narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, sociopaths, psychopaths. I don't know exactly, where they fit there, but it could also be schizophrenic, bipolar, a very depressed mother or father caregiver, someone with anxiety, any type of mental disorder of that nature or personality disorder or illness. Okay. Also physical illnesses. That's why I say in these situations, it's not the parent's fault what attachment style you ended up with, because quite literally, they didn't ask for that and they probably did the best that they could, but this is where it came from. So you need to acknowledge that your parent being this way is what created your attachment style so that you can target it and heal it. So it's important to notate where it came from, but we are not blaming Okay, so that was the difference. So don't feel bad that you're stating that it was your caregiver that, it was related to that, and think that you're trashing on your caregiver, because I understand that can be a point of, you're good people. You don't necessarily always want to say that about your parent. And I feel you, but you're not blaming your parent. It's just simply the fact. You matter too, and you need to unpack what this is within you and just be honest and authentic about it. They may have lost a caregiver during their childhood, or even a sibling, or even just a close family member, or someone that was very closely connected to their family. If they were orphaned or in foster care or put up for adoption as a child, your family somehow became homeless because you went through a financial crisis that you didn't expect, or you were born to a single mother, or maybe your parents were never married, or one of your parents abandoned the household, and then your other parent was a single parent, and that was a tough life because it's very hard to be a single parent. I know, because I was one most of my life. Teen parenthood, whether it is that correlated with you having a teen parent, like you being the child of a teen parent, or you yourself becoming a teen parent as an adolescent. I had my first son when I was 15 years old. As much as I love my son and everything about him is amazing, and he's just the best person in the whole wide world, and I would never give him back if I had the option in a million years, because I love him. It was very traumatic on me as a child still. I was a child. It certainly shaped me in a lot of monumental positive ways that were able to develop out of it, but I can't fail to acknowledge that it was detrimental to me in a lot of ways as well. And it was hard. And I spent the next 21 years of my life up to now continuing to grow and develop and recover from that. Another situation that might result in this, you are a child that had extreme behavioral issues. Maybe you were on the autism spectrum, or you had a related disorder that causes your social behavior or your communication to be a struggle, or you needing a lot of assistance in that area. That type of a thing can weigh on your caregiver, and then depending on the amount of support that caregiver gets for that situation, there are times that could be tumultuous, and that could be not a supportive situation, and not always you getting what you needed truly as a child. You became a child or teen addict, got into drugs, or got into fighting, or you ran away from home, or you were in trouble with the law early and had to go to juvenile hall, being expelled from school, being kicked out of school. Those could all be very tumultuous experiences. And it's typically probably one of the factors I've already named that led you to have that behavior. So that was already you probably acting out your attachment style when you hadn't matured yet. It's like a secondary continued turmoil and continued trauma. These are less common if you suffer through a natural disaster. Commission of a crime happens and you're a victim. Maybe there was a crime committed against your caregivers, or your caregivers committed a crime. If one of your family members or caregivers went to jail, if one of your family members or your caregivers were in the military and they were deployed often, and you maybe were left behind at home a lot without the caregiving support that you needed, that can be also a factor. It's really a specific one with kids of military parents. In that situation, a lot of times those families, they will end up relying on one of the children to then step into that role and kind of like hold down the fort while they're gone. It's called parentification. Parentification is a definite trauma, and it's not good for children, and it should not be expected of them at all. It's great to have responsibilities that are age appropriate when you're a child, but putting you in charge of parenting your not children is definitely not a fair way to grow up. So children of these types of dynamics, typically they could end up fearful avoidant. And then one last example that I can think of could be if you were in some major accident, like maybe you became disabled, or you were just in a really traumatic car accident where people were harmed pretty significantly, or maybe your parent was harmed significantly that way. I'm sure there's tons of other examples, but you get the picture. It's a very traumatic, impactful event, or a long-spanning trauma. And the one really unique thing about fearful avoidant attachment style is that it's the most common attachment style that you can develop as an adult. So, for instance, you could come out of childhood actually having an anxious, preoccupied attachment style, or a dismissive, avoidant attachment style. And then if you go through a series of, or even one, which is a very impactful relationship, that could send you into the fearful avoidant realm instead of remaining an AP or a DA, anxious, preoccupied, or dismissive, avoidant. So it's something that if enough repetition and emotion is able to rewire your beliefs in adulthood, which what is a big catalyst for that, your relationships, especially for an anxious preoccupied, because anxious preoccupied, what? Puts all of their identity and all of their worth into their relationships. So when that goes sour and their heart is broken from that, if it's impactful enough, if they are hurt enough over a long enough period of time, just beat down by that, they can then cross over into the more avoidant side. And that's exactly what happened to me. I know this firsthand because I lived it. And it wasn't that I just read a list of behaviors and decided that I fall into those categories when I decided that I did. There's an actual attachment quiz that is available online. There's multiple different ones. And I have taken multiple different attachment quizzes. And when I took them before, when I first discovered this theory, I always across the board tested anxious preoccupied. Midway through my last relationship, I started taking them and getting fearful avoidant. So not only does the list of the behaviors and the lists of the characteristics match in the different times, but also the tests confirmed it. So I'm very, very confident that that is what happened. Now, what is in common with all of these events that have an impact and have such a traumatic effect? The key factor that is related in these is that there was a breach of trust between child and caregiver, child and the world around them. So trust was broken. That intrinsic trust that we have in the people that take care of us and the world is ultimately overall good and consisting of good, decent people. That was breached in our childhood or in a series of tumultuous relationships in our adulthood, or even just one. So that is why one of the main core wounds for a fearful avoidant is I am unsafe. I can't trust. Their biggest fear, I will be betrayed. So it makes perfect sense. It's all sounding pretty like textbook, like clockwork, like easy stuff up to this point. But like, hold on, because let's buckle in because it gets a little crazy. Number 2, let's go over some of the core wounds that are very common amongst fearful avoidance, okay? So the first one I said is I am unsafe. That one's really common. It's funny, I've said that one a lot since I've been fearful avoidant without ever knowing that that was one of them. I will be betrayed or I cannot trust. That's really common as well. The next two are pretty common amongst most people that have an insecure attachment, that have core limiting beliefs, because they're probably the most common core limiting beliefs that there are. I am not enough. That is the prevalent belief that a lot of us have. I think that's really interesting. I just want to comment on that for a second. Kind of ridiculous that so many people actually end up just going around this world with this idea in their head that they're not enough, when that's just not true. And it's so prevalent that, you know, there's got to be something going wrong in a very large portion of our upbringings and the way that we are raised as humans and the way that the world affects us, that so many people end up thinking they're not enough. I just think that's mind-blowing. It's just something to ponder. All right, forging onward. So the most common ones are I am unworthy, and I will be abandoned, and I am not enough. So those 3 are really across the board. A lot of people have those. Some more that are really common to just the fearful avoidant as mostly than any of the other attachment styles would be I am stupid, I am fooled, or I will be tricked. So this applies when in relationships when they end up trusting and they drop their guard and they have gotten burned by that. And what does our subconscious do when we have beliefs? When something has happened to us that was so traumatic, we don't want it to happen again. We're going to seek it out and we're going to find it because, and then when you go looking for something, what happens?
You always find it. You always
Find it.
Oh, you found it again. Darn. Dang it. You found it again. Crap. So that's really hard to get out of that rut and trust someone again. So you can see how this can be problematic and it can be a cycle. They don't want to trust. They find someone that they can. It takes them so long to open up to that person. And then if that person decides to break their trust or betray them, which, newsflash, everyone, if you're around them long enough, will, in fact, by way of human nature, break your trust to some degree. What? Because humans are imperfect creatures, and it's going to happen. The longer you spend around somebody, and the more of yourself you open up to them, it is inevitable. It's going to happen. So you're going to keep proving this to yourself. And it makes sense how that cycle can be very counterproductive and just feed into itself over and over and over. Okay, so you get to the point with this person that you finally found the courage to trust somebody again. You feel so close to them. You feel like this is that one person that maybe, could it be that you found that one rare gem that will not break your trust like all the others, that will not betray you in the way that you've been hurt before. And then how dare they did it. they turn right around and they do it to a small degree. Because I'm not talking about huge betrayals that hopefully like that doesn't happen to you, but that also happens sometimes. But even in situations where someone is truly committed to you and truly does love you, this will happen to a low level. So then the fearful avoidant mind, it's just set up this way. It's going to see that small thing that has been done to betray you, and then the trust is breached, just like when you were a child, or just like in that past relationship. The trust is breached. What you have witnessed is that it never gets rebuilt. It never gets made up to you. It never gets really acknowledged, maybe even. And it continues to happen if you stick around, because as a child, you had to stick around and put up with that. And maybe in your last relationship or past times, you stuck around for that person because you wanted to see them through and you wanted to be committed and you were loyal, because that's typically a fearful avoidant is a loyal person, and then to a fault. And that's how they get into these situations where they believe everyone's going to betray them because they stuck around for things they shouldn't have stuck around for. And that's not to say, again, that's not their fault. It's just what happened. And so they think in their mind, oh, no, I've seen this before. If I stick around for this, what does history tell me? It's going to happen again, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to happen more and more and more until my entire self is so dysregulated that I can't almost recover, and I can't go through that pain again. So I now need to push this individual so far away from me that I fall out of love with them, because I cannot be attached to them. This is dangerous. I am unsafe. Get me out of here. I don't want to be tricked. I don't want to be fooled. I will not fall for this again. So that's where that belief comes into play. They push their partner away. They hurt their partner. They misread situations. They think their partner's betraying them. All these things that are happening, they're assuming that this is the way it is. They're jumping to conclusions. They're grabbing some things that are maybe have an element of truth to them, or maybe frustrations because of the way now they're not trusting their partner, and they're grouping them all into one with things that aren't things that are actually true, that they've misperceived. They just build this mountain of a wall between them and their partner that it becomes more and more impossible that their partner's ever going to get across. They stop communicating their needs. They stop doing things in a healthy way. They start getting volatile. They think they're setting boundaries now, but really they're just giving ultimatums. And it just becomes more and more and more and more toxic until the two cannot put it back together and it ends up breaking. And then they go, I knew it. Everyone betrays me. All people betray me. Self-fulfilling prophecy at its finest, guys. All right, so a few more core common wounds for the fearful avoidant are I am bad, I am weak, or I am disrespected. They share the I am bad wound, usually with an anxious preoccupied. I also have the I will be trapped, helpless, or powerless and have no control. That one they share a little bit more with their avoidance side, with the dismissive avoidance. That's a key core wound for dismissive avoidance. So as you can see, they have like the polar opposite. They could be any range of the two sides of the pendulum at any given time. So even in the same relationship, they kind of swing like a pendulum. So sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're cold, sometimes they're anxious, sometimes they're avoidant. Also, if they have a very, very dismissive partner, they're going to be showing up heavily in their anxious role. If they have a very anxious partner, they're going to show up heavily in the role that's available. Because why? Opposites attract forever. That's just human. That's the way it is. Human nature. It's going to always happen that way. So whoever's already taking up that role, fearful, is likely to just step into the opposite role. Now, if you have two fearful avoidants that are together, because that often happens, because why? They can be each other's perfect opposite. They have so much in common at the same time. They have so much that they could relate on, but also they can be each other's opposite too. So they kind of like go like this. They're a pendulum that's going like this constantly. Ooh, you're on this side. I'm on this side. You're on this side. I'm anxious. I'm avoidant. You're anxious. You're avoidant. It's just a big cluster. You know what? Half the time. And they're just constantly dysregulating each other. It's beautiful in the beginning. It's pure bliss. It's literally two people that have never connected so deeply, and they just feel so seen, so heard. They're like, you're the magical person I've been waiting for and looking for forever. Sometimes when two fearful avoidants find each other, it feels like the love they've been waiting for all their life. And it actually ends up sometimes being that one relationship that they finally get to a point where they drop their guard completely and are able to have real intimacy with that person, or as much intimacy as they've ever experienced in their adult life, that they were brave enough to show themselves authentically and purely and completely get vulnerable with that person. That's number 3 also, is that fearful avoidants don't often experience true intimacy that is recognizable as intimacy that is worth notating and commemorating as true intimacy for them and a true connection. So when they have that, it's very uncommon. They can connect with like so many people on a level that to most would look very deep, and they have all these deep connections. It seems like it's like, how do you have a heart to relate to so many people? You must just be so good at making connections. And then, or like, how do you have so many friends that are such good friends that you could say like are your best friends? Like some fearful avoidants have so many friends, like, and they all seem like they're close friends. But if you look a little bit closer, you will see that this is all a facade, because I'm a fearful avoidant and I seem very adaptable to understanding people. I am very good at reading people. I am very good at empathizing for people and listening to them and seeming very open and welcoming. And I am welcoming. I will definitely make you feel comfortable enough to open up to me. And you will think I am opening up to you because I do this thing that I've learned in my subconscious. I'm aware of it now. I think I'm vulnerable, but really I just feign it. I feign vulnerability, and I choose things to share after I have read between the lines and thoroughly figured out my situation and that person that I'm interacting with. And I've read them like a book, and I have within minutes decided who they could be to my life, how far they can go in my life. What can this person even connect with me on more than a surface level? Can this person be more than somebody I talk to when they just come around? Is this person going to be a longtime friend? Am I going to share anything real with them? Am I going to even like them like that? Here's the thing. Can they even get on my level emotionally and with that much depth? Emotional superiority. It's a real thing. Fearful avoidants have it. It's like not cute. Stop it. You think you have so much more feelings and so much more depth than other people, but like and like granted, maybe some, but like also at the same time, like get over yourself. I say that because I am fearful avoidant. I am talking to myself. Okay. It's fine. We have to be held accountable. Okay. I do that. When they do feel that intimacy with someone, they're even that much more devastated when they lose that relationship. And it takes them such a long time to recover from that they aren't in relationships often. They go from probably throughout their life, they'll have like a very long relationship and then a long period of being single. And then they might have another really long, significant relationship or decently long, and then a long time of being single. And I see this as a huge marked difference of when I changed over to fearful from anxious preoccupied, is because when I would go through breaking up with my significant other, when I was an anxious preoccupied, I almost couldn't stand the interim of time that it was going to take for me to find a new relationship. I couldn't stand to go through that time period, even if I couldn't stand for it to be a week. I was already trying to, find somebody to talk to immediately. I couldn't stand to be alone. I needed someone to coddle me and make me feel better. And it just had to be another romantic relationship or romantic connection right away. I didn't even let myself heal. I would try to get back in my old relationship because that was like the quickest way back, even if they did whatever they did, which was unbelievable. Just no sense of self whatsoever. Okay. But then, once I turned over to fearful, oh gosh, the vast difference in how I processed my pain in that breakup, still wildly tumultuous, still felt like dying, still felt all the anxious sides of it. But my response to that and my coping was 100% opposite. My coping, I did a little bit of the still entertaining the relationship and missing my partner, even though I knew that it had run its course and I knew that I was not treated well in that relationship. Even though I knew that, I did that a bit. But also in the aspect of like moving on, no, I couldn't even believe it was me. I was like,
Literally don't want anyone to come near me. I don't want to be outside. I don't want to be seen. I don't want any attention. I don't want anything. Connection, ew. Vulnerability, ew. Get away from me, no. That's
so unbelievable to an anxious preoccupied. I can't even still to this day fully fathom in my head even having another relationship at this time. Like it doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem like that can happen, but I know I will get there. I am, instead of ruminating on all of that and figuring out new reasons to distrust everybody, I decided, now that I've discovered attachment theory, let me go ahead and heal this and like get on over to secure level before I date again, because I don't want to do myself any more of a disservice, and I certainly would be doing a disservice to any man I would meet at this time. Let me get back on track, okay? Turn the car around. Okay, we're back. Going off the rails on a crazy train. I have no idea what number I was on. That's number 4, is that fearful avoidants have a difficulty experiencing true, recognizable intimacy very often. It's very rare for them. Okay? But other people think that they're experiencing it with them because they feign vulnerability. We don't actually reveal the things that are actually going to be vulnerable for us, but we picked things that we've already processed that seem vulnerable, and we give up those so that we can have that connection seemingly. And this is subconscious, so we don't really know that we're doing that until you know. And I know now, so I got to fix that. All right, number 5. Number 5 is that fearful avoidants have a generally overall negative view of self and a generally overall negative view of others as well. So they don't really trust themselves to always be able to determine if they're safe. They can't even trust themselves. And they don't even know if maybe they're even good enough. They also have an overall view of negativity about others. So they don't really think others are okay either. Others are not okay to trust. Others are not really good. Others are probably going to betray me. They pretty much operate with the fact that they need to be on their toes, and anybody could betray them at any time, even the closest people to them. So that's a whole lot of negativity to be weighing on your shoulders. And it's crazy because they seem, when you first meet them, as some of the most positive people, some of the most loving, caring, open, good-hearted people that you'd ever meet. Because it's not until they are dysregulated and in a vulnerable situation that those are the people that are going to see the other side, that are going to see all those fears, experience all those behaviors. So their close, intimate relationships, the people closest to them for real, are the ones that are going to witness this part, that are going to get the dysregulated side. So fearful avoidants are all those things. They are great people. They are giving. They are loving, lovers of people in the world. And they do have a heart for people. But deep down, they are afraid of people. And they are afraid of themselves. But it's not their fault. It's just from their childhood. It's how they had to survive. So they want love badly. They want it so badly, but they don't know how. They overall don't really trust or believe that others can meet their needs on a full level, or that others can connect with them truly, or that others are going to be on their level emotionally. So number 6. Number six. Okay. Number 6 is, let's say number 6 was that they are slow to open up in truly vulnerable ways. And then one of the ones before that was very similar, and it was that they have difficulty experiencing true intimacy often. Okay, for the same reason. Okay, you got that. That was 2. Got it. Just stay with me here, okay? So number 7. Number 7 is that they have issues with boundaries, as they do think the same with their vulnerabilities. They kind of think the same thing about their boundaries. They think they're pretty good at communicating their boundaries. They set their boundaries, but what they actually do is they people please sometimes. Anxious, they'll people please. The more avoidant will appease and do this ideal imitation of the person that they want to show up as if they could trust. And in the beginning of the relationship, when they're not dysregulated yet, they can show up that way. They start out that way and they're just in their best self. No dysregulation yet, so they can just give it all, their whole heart, so-called. It looks like they're giving that, okay? Then, when it's not reciprocated, what they don't understand is that they are not communicating and setting boundaries on a day-by-day basis. They might overgive in a way where they aren't being very clear about what their expectations are. They might think that they set really good boundaries throughout the way, but what they do is they operate from a place of projection of their own perspective. And a lot of people, this is like human nature as well. So we just think that other people think like us. We think that other people feel like us. We think that other people are going to react like us. And that is an incorrect perception, because there's so many different personalities. And especially if you even just stick to attachment theory, there's wide ranges of differences between between the different types of attachment styles and how they think about things that are very different, very oppositely. So the exact opposite of how you would think as one, you would not think that way as the other. Avoidants are amazing at assuming and really great at leaping actually, to conclusions from what they read from their environment. Okay, whether it's sitting around assessing the danger levels constantly, just noticing very small things about people, and then making assumptions based on their projection of perspective onto everyone around them and what those people's intentions might be, because it's the way they had to survive. It makes sense. So if they're doing, some type of a report where probabilities are involved, brilliant mind. They're going to be spot freaking on. Probability of this or the correlation of this. Brilliant. In relationships, where their partner is likely their very polar opposite most of the time, or in some ways, missing the mark entirely, totally leaping to conclusion, just out here running amok, just making wild assumptions that are nothing like what their partner thinks like, because this is how attachment theory works, okay? Different attachment styles. When you're in a relationship, you're a team. So you're, let's say, like a football team. You're two members of the same team in the NFL. You're going off one playbook, and your counterpart is going off a totally different playbook. So every time you guys go out on the field and you're ready to run the play, chaos ensues. You're not seeing eye to eye. It's not computing. You're like,
What is this teammate doing?
out here. But they do have a playbook, their own, that is wildly opposite of yours. So that's what it's like. It's like trying to play this on the same team with two different playbooks. Okay, and both have some flaws in them. And so two would benefit from actually joining the playbooks together and going, okay, this one's a little flawed here, and I kind of have some strengths in this part of that. So let's like change that one to my part. And it's really like strong from your side. So let's like put that in this one. And like, let's just make one together and heal all these broken parts of each of our playbooks and make a joint better playbook, because we want to go to Super Bowl. Why are we continuing to act like we think each other's playbook is the same and just continue to go out there and make foolish plays and not get into the playoffs and not get into the Super Bowl? I'm tired of not going to the Super Bowl. Okay. I largely know nothing about football. I just came up with that myself, so. But it is like that. It's just like that. Each one of you thinks that your playbook is probably the one available to everyone. That's how we interpret our perspective, is that we think it's everyone's perspective, unless you become self-aware and aware of your surroundings. So if each assumes that that's how it goes in everybody's brain, and then you're acting this ridiculous opposite way, you're going to look at each other like, what is this crazy person? Someone that isn't very emotionally mature or understands how to look inward or look at the world around them is going to say things to the effect of, that doesn't even make sense. Why would anyone think that way? That's not how people think. But clearly, you can understand at a certain age, if you just open your eyes a bit, that people think a ton of different ways. And your way isn't always just the only way, and it's not always the right way. So we can all really benefit from self-reflection. We can all really benefit from letting go of the notion that we have to be right, and we have to win the argument, and that whatever way we thought that we brought into that disagreement has to be something we have to just like clutch onto for dear life and like fight to the death over. There's no reward in being right. The reward is in the truth and finding the solution and finding the happy medium and just learning how to understand and get along with a different personality type than your own. Because all day you could say, well, I'll just, when it's someone I'm meant to be with, they'll just get it. They'll just get me. We'll just think alike. No, actually you won't, because you won't be attracted to the person that's like that, because you're going to be opposite attracted. So you got to do this, or you're just going to be fighting yourself constantly and everybody that you're with. And you're going to drive everyone crazy and yourself. And it's just not smart. So let's not do that. Oops, I did it again. Totally off on a tangent for numerous minutes. Okay, let's get back to it. Boundaries. So what fearful avoidants will do is they will think that they've set boundaries, but all they've really done is model behavior that they expect will be returned and reciprocated, but they don't get that their partner doesn't behave exactly like them and is not reading their mind. So they become frustrated over time. When they've been giving, they think it's been so noticeable that no one could miss it. In most situations, unless they are with someone that actually just doesn't reciprocate and is just kind of not a great person to them. Most good-hearted, well-meaning people, they're probably just missing all the ways that their partner is giving to them. They just aren't aware of the way that the fearful avoidant needs to be given to. Boundaries tend to be something that are only set by fearful avoidants for real once they become ultimatums. And these are not boundaries. These are not boundaries, guys. Okay? Because then they start telling you what you should do, or what you got to do, or they're going to do that. Which is what? Avoid, run away. Flight, get out of there. Because they have to push you far away. Because they don't want to love you anymore. They love you, but they don't want to love you anymore. Because it hurts. Because you're betraying them. You've betrayed them. What you'll see the FA do is like people pleasing in the beginning. The acting as though they don't have really any needs. But then deep down, the fearful avoidant is going to be stewing in the fact that they're expecting you to read on these things. And they're like kind of like I deserve this. Because like it's my turn type of thing. And they're kind of keeping score. because that's what people have to do when they don't want to get betrayed and they don't want to get lied about. People have like used things against them before. So like they have to keep notes. They have to keep proof. They have to keep evidence for sure. Or they're just going to get like completely tricked, fooled, all of that. They're going to be made to look stupid. They do the thing, the people pleasing and then the resentment. But the thing with the fearful is that like, with AP, there can be volatility with resentment if it's bad enough. But typically you won't see that as much. And then AP is going to react with sadness. They're going to react with depression. They're going to react with a lot of clingy behaviors, kind of, pulling into that person and being very more on their desperate, I guess is like the best word I can think of for it. And then the fearful avoidant, they're going to be really mean. Sometimes they can really hurt you with their words when they're very dysregulated, when they feel that they've been disrespected a lot and they feel like they've been pushed to a limit and they feel like they're being taken advantage of. And they're backed into a corner and they're actively pushing this person away now to be protected. They're going to be going through that pain, so they're going to be volatile and they're going to be maybe harmful. They get pushed to a point where they feel like they have been so severely disrespected and walked all over that they are now viewing this from a lens of, it's time for me to stand up for myself. And they don't view it as they're being mean. They view it as, I have to protect myself. You've been hurting me all this time and I now need to show you that you can't hurt me like that and I'm going to hurt you back. Sometimes it can even be a level of when they feel like I'm not being heard and you have mistreated me. They don't know how to just communicate that extremely effectively, so they will instead just try to hurt you back. Not because they want to hurt you back, they want to feel connected with you again. So they're really hurt. So you got to be on their level with them, or they just feel disconnected. They would never admit that it's for connection, but that's exactly why. That's why they say misery loves company. That's why when somebody hurts you really bad, you feel like I just want to hurt them back with my words because like I want them to just feel a minuscule amount of what they've made me feel, because they don't seem to get it. It's connection on a negative end, but it's connection in either way. They want you to be connected with them down in their misery. What they do is they wait until they're angry, frustrated, resentful at the end of their rope. And then they start setting boundaries. And their boundaries look like something like,
You're going to change this or I'm out. This is your last chance.
That's what their boundaries look like. They might have raised voices. A fearful avoidant isn't unknown to raise a voice. A fearful avoidant isn't unknown to call a name. I've definitely engaged in it. And I can tell you that at the time I felt fully warranted. I was not sorry. I felt that what I was saying, they were behaving like. They were absolutely behaving that way for a long time. And I had long past needed to say it. And I was very kind for not saying it for so long and for being so accepting. That's what I thought. Most humans in general, whatever they do, it's because they've found a way, or they have a way that they truly believe to justify it in their mind. I mean, people are only going to do what they can justify. So that can be scary in and of itself, because to what level can an individual justify behavior? And that's what behavior you could see from them in their desperate of times. So these are the key moments when a fearful avoidant can really make some significantly horrific marks on their past or in their relationships that they feel guilty about, and they will ruminate in shame over later. And I will be the first to tell you that this is accurate. I definitely went through this. I will say that I will not excuse my partner that I previously had. Definitely did things that I, to this day, definitely feel were not fair, were not right. And I certainly had reason to be very upset and many reasons to walk out of that relationship. Even in the times that some of the things that were so hurtful to me happened, I still just could not justify fully. Obviously, I did in the moment. Some of the things that I said out of anger, calling my partner a name, whether or not I felt like he deserved that in the moment and that he earned that. Like, who the hell am I to decide when someone deserves to be called a derogatory name? Now, there's some people that engage in this more than others. Some people call people a-holes all the time. It's not a commonplace for me. It's not something I do in my daily life. I don't get in confrontations. I hate confrontation. I felt pushed to a point. I couldn't any longer control myself with enough, my conscience, I guess, to say like,
oh, don't do that to him. That's not right.
I didn't give a shit. At that point, he hurt me to my core. I justified it. It would really plague me about that I did that. I let myself get so out of line and so dysregulated. I'm not him. I don't have control over him. No, none of us have the right to say when someone has done enough to deserve to be called a name that's a derogatory name. Never. I don't have that right. And none of us have that right. So if you think you've found a way to justify doing that, you don't. You're wrong. And I was wrong. And those things still really weigh on me, regardless. It's like there's even the worst of things that happened from the other direction. I still just could never really fully reconcile and be okay with the fact that I did that, ultimately, deep down. And at this time, I'm really working on forgiving myself for that. Because I hate that I did that. I hate it. It is not me. It's not how I typically behave. And we're all human. And I don't want to give myself excuses. But I do deserve grace, as he does. He deserves grace. I deserve grace. That's what we both deserve. In your self-development, really get good at holding yourself to the standard that you want to see reflected. Okay, thank you, accountability buddy. All right, so we don't set boundaries. We think we do, we didn't, and then we just like go fly off the handle when it gets like too much to handle. Okay, number 8. Number 8 is the range of emotions that fearful avoidants tend to feel when in relationships. So fearful avoidants often report feeling a lot of anger, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of frustration. Like I said, guilt and shame related to once they get dysregulated, the ways that sometimes they behave when they're in that height of emotion and they're like highly state of dysregulation, and they act out in ways that they really regret and that are not in line with their real core personality and can make them feel regret and guilt for a long time, regardless of what pushed them there. They often feel pressure, and then on a much lower of a level, they feel a little bit of sadness, depression, anxiety. As an FA that's leaning anxious, you will have a lot more of that. And so I came from being an anxious preoccupied where I've already experienced mounds of depression and mounds of anxiety in my life. So I mean, that's not gone. But I don't tend to be activated in that way quite as often because it's now shared with a level of the avoidant side of things. So sometimes it evens me out, and I really appreciate it. So it's a little bit different. If you've been in AP first and then you go to an FA, there are things that even out and that are a little bit maybe better for you from the experience that you had as an AP before. Number 9 is that fearful avoidants have a tendency to become volatile and lash out after a prolonged silence or prolonged stifling of their real feelings, or if they get to feeling very disappointed by their partner's lack of ability to show up in the relationship in their perspective over time. All right, number 10. Number 10 is unrealistic expectations. Sorry. Let's close it out on that note. Volatile, and they expect unrealistic things. Okay, so unrealistic expectations for a fearful avoidant consists of that they may hold the unrealistic expectation that someone should never break their trust, never betray them, and that the person that they end up with should have mind reading abilities. Now, they don't like actually think this. They're not like, I think I need a partner that should be able to just like read my mind. Like, I'm probably going to like date a tarot reader, or maybe someone that is a psychic, or maybe a medium, or other people that read minds. I don't know who else read minds, but like, I need one. They're not saying that, but they are expecting it on a subconscious level. So because they, again, what do? They know how to read between the lines. They're assessing their environment and they're making assumptions. They think they're doing a great job of it. Half the time they're not. They're like totally assuming wrong. I promise. And again, I say this looping myself into that. Okay. We assume wrong. We jump to the wrong conclusion. Sometimes not. Sometimes we hit the nail on the head. Some people do have bad intentions. Some people do betray you. Okay. So sometimes we're not wrong. We got this from somewhere where that was happening. But sometimes we are wrong. And that's where the disaster lies. We think that the other people are going to be as hyper aware as us and reading between the lines and noticing things the way that we do and reading things the way that we do. And they just aren't. People don't do that the same as each other. They also have this outlook that relationships should continue to get more and more intense and always have new experiences and like continue to grow and increase in enjoyment. This peak of perfection that they're supposed to get to, the level that their relationship needs to just keep getting better and better. When in reality, relationships should, the most fulfilling ones and the ones that you enjoy being in, should get to a level of just contentment. They should reach a level where they kind of calm down all the expectations and the constant pressures and performance for each other all the time and trying to win your partner over and all that good stuff. That you should keep up a level of that. But the best part is like just being able to ease into calmness and contentment and safety with your partner and just knowing that we're smooth sailing now, babe. We're smooth sailing. We have gotten through the power struggle. It's chill time, babe. Fearful avoidants don't believe it. That's actually how relationships can be. Because all they've ever seen in a relationship is that it's chaotic. So what will happen is, even when they get a good relationship and they actually are in that space or have been given the opportunity to get to that space, they sabotage it because they don't believe it. They're like, there's something wrong here. This person is obviously faking. This person's obviously lying to me. This person's going to break my trust because this isn't how relationships are. They're not going to say, because this isn't chaotic, but they're going to inadvertently sow distrust and chaos into the relationship because this calmness business is never been heard of. And they're just like, that's not normal. And I'm not going to believe that. I'm not going to be tricked by that. What do you think, I'm stupid? But you think you are, and you need to like heal that, okay? Because that's what this keeps happening. I didn't really go over the relationship needs. So some of the relationship needs of a fearful avoidant they are very polarized. So this is a part where it gets very complicated for people to understand the needs of a fearful avoidant and for them to understand their own, because they're just like wildly in opposition at times. They don't really make sense. It's like why they often feel like their needs didn't get met. This is precisely why. The reason isn't because people can't meet their needs. I mean, it is. It is because that. They're actually kind of right about that. The reason is because people can't meet their needs. Do you know why people can't meet their needs? Baby, your needs are unrealistic.
Ouch!
Literally can't exist together. They're not possible. You're expecting something that doesn't happen. It's not in the laws of reality. It cannot occur. It cannot co-occur. It's really important that the dismissive avoidant and the fearful avoidant need to like understand this. Oftentimes they have very unrealistic needs and expectations in relationships. And it causes their partner, especially when they usually have a much more anxious, preoccupied, our little preoccupied poo-poo baby. You're breaking their heart, okay? You are breaking their heart. All they want to do is please you. They're like dying to please you and dying to be close to you and dying to meet your needs. They literally want to meet your needs so bad. Like, do you get that? They want to meet them. And then you're just over here just like creating complete trauma for them because you're just like...
just one more person who couldn't meet my needs like I knew you couldn't. Nobody ever can. I thought I gave enough. I thought I would be reciprocated, but I guess I wanted a partner.
Honey, you're breaking this person, but your needs aren't real. They don't make sense. So let me tell you about these needs. So fearful avoidants have a need for independence and respect of their space and their freedoms. At the same time, fearful avoidants want a fully, deeply passionate and vulnerable connection. Sorry, hold on. Wait, so you want to be independent and you want to be completely given your space, but you also want to fully be in my world too, and you want me to know how to fit into your world, fully encompassed and fully vulnerable and fully entranced and very passionate and deep. You also don't want me to bug you about opening up. You want to have a deep, intimate connection with me. Huh? I'm confused. That makes no sense. That makes no sense, guys. That makes no sense, avoidance. Needs that don't coexist. They can't coexist. You gotta kind of find a middle ground. You gotta bring your unrealistic needs down to a more realistic level if you want to see them ever get met. Okay, because these are not really your needs. I'll tell you what this is about in a second. They also need trust in a relationship while they don't want to give too much vulnerability. So they don't really let people see them. They don't want to have to open up. They want people to figure them out, but they want trust. Opposing. That can't happen. Okay. Well, they really love intimacy. They're seeking it. They want that. But again, they also don't want to have to open up. So they want a deep, passionate love, but they don't want to have to be vulnerable. They want someone to really understand them on a deep level, but they don't want to have to reveal all the inner workings of their world and display what their boundaries are clearly and tell what their needs are. Because when you start saying these needs out loud, fearful avoidant, you're like, I can't even explain this because this doesn't even make sense. Let me just veer away from that with cognitive dissonance and kind of like ignore it. Something that you'll notice if you're with a fearful avoidant is like, If you guys keep butting heads and you're just like, just tell me what you need. Like, I want to fix it. I want to do it right for you. Just tell me. And they'll just be like obstinate about it and get like frustrated, like, and tell you that they've told you a million times. And you're just like, you're literally still not telling me, actually. Maybe a more secure person would probably push and force them to say it and be like, look, if you're not going to be clear, I can't read your mind. So I'm going to tell you, you have not told me. So just tell me right now. I don't want to play these games. But like a more anxious person will probably just kind of fall under it for that. And I know because I did. And it's like, they would just like laugh at me, like as though I was just feigning ignorance. And they would just insist that they have told me this a million times. And I'd be like, no, actually, what you've told me a million times is that you've told me a million times. You do this, you say this every time. What is that about? Like, just tell me what they are right now. What do you need? I want to do it for you. And it's this obstinance because fearful avoidance believe that they shouldn't have to tell you. They're tired of telling people. But you know why they don't want to tell you? Here's the real tea. Every time they've ever actually communicated their needs or actually had really deep needs expressed, people have very much failed to meet them. They have. So that is a real thing that has happened to them. In the worst of ways, in the cruelest of ways, in the most traumatic of ways. So, their way of coping with that is to not express their needs clearly because what? They already assume that you cannot meet them and that no one is going to be able to meet them because no one ever is able to meet them and they don't really think anybody can. So, by not expressing them clearly, that softens that blow a little bit. It's like they already expected it. And they didn't really put themselves out there to feel that I'm stupid, I'm tricked, I'm dumb, look what I did again. Trusted. This is one that I have to really get in check with myself about because this is very blatantly, to me, just like the most egregious representation of self-sabotage I think I've ever seen in my life. And I will not let it go unknown to my conscious mind because no, ma'am. That doesn't make any sense. Because if you don't communicate your needs, what are you guaranteeing? You're guaranteeing that no one can meet them. No, we will not. Not communicating your needs because you've learned that people are probably not going to be able to meet them anyway, but who the hell is going to be able to meet them if you don't communicate them? The real way to love somebody is to let them in very clearly and kindly on your internal world of needs and the way to love you, and giving them that roadmap is such a beautiful gift because that is a gift that the people who love you really want to receive. If you love them back, you will share that with them. But if you want to set landmines for them and booby traps because you want to see them pass some tests and, make the mark, welcome to a life of seeing people fail at this over and over. And welcome to a life where you arrive at the end empty-handed. And with a life that was unmarked by true love and unmarked by some of the things that are the most important things in life. One really sad thing that happens to some insecure attached people is that they get so beat up in love that they get to a point where they just decide, you know what, love maybe it's just not for me. They get to be thinking like,
relationships just aren't like really my thing. I'm meant to kind of walk this earth alone.
You are wrong. I will tell you flat out, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but not sorry. You're wrong. That is no one's MO in life. Human beings, as I so obviously displayed with the Harry Harlow, with the monkeys, the Reese's monkeys. Hello, watch that episode. It was a great one. We absolutely do need connection, and it is literally what we're here for. Okay, we are here to connect with each other, and it is the most fulfilling time. Love is the thing. Love is quite literally what we're all here to figure out. It is the goal. It is the thing. I promise you that is what we're all here to get to. You are meant for love. You are meant to have your needs met. You are meant to be in a fulfilled life that consists of a partner that truly loves you and gets you and holds you in high regard and takes care of your heart. And you can get it right as well for them, okay? What you need to do is you need to heal all that pain that's in there and all those guards that are up. I'm going to get to the way that we heal that soon. But for this episode, we're all done today. But I hope this helped. Please like, subscribe. Thank you so much for all your support so far. I love sharing these videos with you. If you have like a topic that you want me to go over, please put that in the comments. I will get to it, I promise. And thank you so much. I love you. I love you. Once again, bye. It is hot as a mother lover in here. It is freaking crazy. I can't. It's like 100 degrees outside right now and I am sweaty. Okay, so we're gonna have to like wrap this up, okay? Because like this is what I like to call a Brazilian blowout. It's so hot. My Brazilian blowout is hot. No, I'm just joking. I'm hot as hell. I'm so hot. It's hot. It's hot outside. Please forgive me. It's hot, guys. So if I had to choose a song in the most recent of decades that fits the fearful avoidant the best, I would probably choose LaToya Luckett, Torn in Between the Two. I'm just torn in between the two, 'cause I really wanna be with you, but something's telling me I should leave you alone. Just torn in between the two, 'cause I really be with you, but something's telling me I should leave you alone. And it's my self-limiting beliefs in my subconscious mind. It's not real, and I should heal it. Love that song. Great lyrics. So accurate for this situation. Weird. Fly off the handle when it gets like too much to handle. Fly off the handle when it's too much to handle. Fly off the handle when it's too much to handle. Fly off the handle when it's too much to handle. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Write that one down, okay? 2 types of handle. 2 types of handle. I love words like that. Like words that actually, they sound the same. What is that called? A homophone? A homophone. It's a homophone. It's a I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Homophone. Homophone.
We'll look it up. Anyway.